Hi, my name is Lauren Miller. I'm the program director at the Reserve of North Dallas. Today I want to do a demonstration for you, and we're going to work from Georgia O'Keeffe's painting called Rose. She painted it in 1957. I'd like to give you a little background about Georgia O'Keeffe because she was an important artist. So let's get started. Georgia O'Keeffe was a revolutionary American painter and sculptor. She was born in Wisconsin in 1887. O'Keeffe spent her childhood plucking wildflowers and arranging fruit to paint. At 17, she moved to Chicago to study at the Art Institute of Chicago. She learned traditional painting there, like the masters, but she never really connected to it. She later moved on to New York, where she did a series of abstract charcoal drawings. She had been inspired by the clean lines and vivid color of Japanese art, and by a teacher who urged his students to focus on more abstract representations of light, shape, and color. What's important about the series of charcoal drawings she produced was that she used the shapes and lines from nature, and these would be the cornerstone of an artistic movement called American Modernism. She was not going to share this work, but a friend sent her charcoals to the art dealer and photographer Alfred Stieglitz. He ended up arranging an exhibit of them in his gallery at a time in history where being a professional artist was not considered an option for women. It marked the beginning of her art career, and their relationship later turned to marriage. Although married, she spent a lot of her time traveling to places to paint, often months at a time. She looked at things in nature very closely and painted in meticulous detail. At first, her paintings seem to be an abstract image, but a closer look reveals the detail of a flower. Stieglitz and other critics of the time were infatuated by Freudian psychology and were quick to link these paintings to female genitalia. But O'Keeffe dismissed such interpretations. She resented the male gaze that dominated the art world and demanded her work be respected for what it was, inspiration from nature. She was particularly praised for her massive flower paintings, but she also painted landscapes and skulls. Eventually, O'Keeffe settled down in New Mexico near one of her favorite artist retreats. She would find beauty in whatever she chose to paint, often spending hours in the desert's hot sun painting what she saw. In her 70s, her eyesight began to fail, but she continued to create until her death at 98. She's remembered as the mother of American modernism. She opened the door for female artists and inspired those who came after her. Today we're going to paint from Georgia O'Keeffe's Rose that was painted in 1957 in oils on a board. It's a pale pink flower with deeper pink center that fills most of the work, and it's complemented by a single green leaf behind the petals on the right side of the flower. You can see bits of other flowers from behind the center of the flower. It's not one of her larger paintings. In fact, it's only 16 inches by 12 3/4 inch, but I chose it because of its simplicity and a good place for us to start. For supplies, I'm using primary red, a medium magenta. These two are extra. You really don't need to have them. You could do the painting perfectly fine with just the other paints, but they are nice to have. Alizarin crimson, phyllocyanine green, titanium white, and black. For brushes, I have a 1-inch flat brush, a 12-inch, and a 5-inch round brush. Also, we're using palette paper to put our paint on and to mix. You can also use a plastic plate. You want to have plenty of paper towels on hand. You can see I already drew the flower on the canvas. It's very simple outline. You don't want to have a lot of detail in your drawing. You're going to actually do that detail by drawing with your smaller brush towards the end. You can use any size canvas. We're using a 16-inch square canvas, but the original of this particular painting is rectangular. But just keep in mind that when Georgia O'Keeffe did her flowers and other objects from nature, they were bigger than life and she enlarged that detail. Okay, gonna start by wetting my large 1-inch flat brush into water and reaching into the white paint. And I'm gonna start with one petal at a time. And basically just fill it in with white paint. Acrylic paint dries quickly, so you kind of need to work fast. Having water on your brush will help it travel quicker. You want your brush strokes to go in the direction of the petal once you have it filled in, not haphazardly, which will give it form. So I'm starting from the center of the flower, or the petal, and reaching out to the edges. Once you have your white layer in, I'm going to take some, without rinsing your brush, I have a little bit of alizarin crimson on the edge of my brush, and it's also mixed with the white. I'm going to mix it right on the canvas. And if that got too dark for you, you can always go back into your white. And I'm lightening the pressure I put as I go out so that it blends. So the question was brought up, is that actually the color of the flower? It looks darker. So you can always go, if you got it too dark, go back into your white, reach back into your white and just blend back into it the other way over the dark to lighten it up a bit. Because you don't want to get it too dark. It's a pretty pastel pink flower. And again, it doesn't have to look exactly like the photo. Keep in mind this is a photograph from the printer, so it's not as vibrant probably as Georgia O'Keeffe's flower painting actually is. So you'll continue around the flower, one petal at a time, just like this. I'm going to continue on to another petal. So through this whole process, I haven't rinsed my brush. This is pretty pale pink here. I'm going to add some white into this center. Go down to a third petal, working my way around. So I'm going to stop this video and come back after all my petals are painted. You can stop the video anytime you want and continue. All right, I'm starting the video again so you can see I've added a little bit of black, but ever so small, because black goes a long, long way when you do some shadowing. And I'm just blending it in the same way. You see how little I have on my white brush. I'm blending it the same way as I did the dark red into the white. So you see I had a little bit here. I'm doing some more here as per the photo. See how dark that went very quickly. And just like with the red, if it got too dark, take some off, dip it in water, put it on your paper towel, blot some of that color out, and go back into your lighter colors. With acrylic paint, you always want to start light colors and get darker. So you see that center and all that detail of the example, that's for the end. Hard at work.
Hard at work.
Make sure you don't confuse your glass of wine with the water you put your paintbrush in. Very important. So you can see now I'm starting to lay in some of the background of the flower, and it's really done the same way. I've got maybe a little more gray in here. I'm going back into it with the white and blending it down into the pinks. And this is where my leaf is going to be right here, so I'm just going up to it. That'll come in later too. And I've been using this wide brush the whole time. You don't want too small a brush, you'll see a lot of brush strokes. So the bigger brush will help you with blending as well. You see, I'm taking this gray all the way into the pink. So there's very subtle transition from gray to pink. I can go into the lines of the drawing a bit because when I do the green on top, it'll make a nice edge. So this is the background. It's lighter than the green's going to be, so that's why I'm doing that before I even start that green leaf. Okay, once you've got most of your pinks and light grays laid in, as those are the lightest colors in the painting, you might want to pay attention to your edges. So to make that flower seem like it's in front of the background, I'm taking my larger round brush and just kind of going over the edges a little. So it's crisp and not blended. This is where you don't want to blend, and that's why a round brush is good. You want to make it seem like it's in front of one petal's in front of another, or it's in front of the background. So I'm just really going over the edge to make it clear. All right, once I got my flower edges the way I want them, the pink's pretty much the way I want them, the gray shadow into the pink, I'm gonna be bold here and start a green leaf. And that's right up here on my painting. Oops. And I've got a nice round brush to do it. The green is a rather transparent color,
Isn't that a surprise?
but when you add a little white to it to make it lighter, it loses its transparency. By itself, it's transparent.
Okay, let me put this down and watch.
And there's a section here, it's just very white. I'm going into the green. You see my green just spilled over. No worries, acrylic paint is forgiving. You can cover that up. So actually a good lesson when you go out of the line where you don't want to, I got a dry brush, a clean brush. Actually, I'm gonna put some water in it. And just pick some of that paint off. And you see it's coming off. Little paper towel. And I've cleaned that up. If it's still stubborn, you can go in with the color that you just covered up. So I just added a little white to it to clean up that edge. There, done. All right, so that's part of the leaf. Next is the larger part of the leaf. Here, it's a little darker. I just took a little bit of black into that green to
Get a little bit more green, but
That's fine.
sorry.
make it darker. come in a little closer so you can see how that is. All right, the fun kind of begins now. This is where we go in with our detail and our darker colors. I'm going right into that alizarin crimson and working on the darker reds. And I had my small brush, round brush. I'm going to scratch that and go back to my bigger round brush first and the smaller one second. So I'm going to lay some of that with this number 12 brush in, and I will go back in with detail with a smaller brush.
Let's see what we're doing. What are we doing? Okay.
So hard for me to get it down. I need a round brush. I don't know where it is. Why is it going on? Yeah.
This one right behind.
So as I do these little points here, I kind of have a watered down version of that alizarin. Alizarin is also a transparent color unless you're putting white into it, but then as you see that gets very pink and it's opaque. Okay, I have simply put in a little bit of background of alizarin crimson. Now I have my finer brush. It's a number 5 round, and I'm going back into it, and I'm gonna draw. This is it's called when I get this small, it's an outline brush, and I'm just gonna draw those, I should know my flower parts, stamen that come out of the center of the flower. So if you want a line, you have to keep your paint kind of on the thin side, watery, otherwise it'll get gloppy if you want to get those finer lines drawing with your paintbrush. And they're kind of going every which way from the center. I'm not doing the little heads on them yet. I'm just focusing on the line. So I've added a little black to the crimson just to give it a little variation so it's not one big red blob. And you can see these lines going into the center. Okay, I'm also going to start adding the little kind of points at the end. Once I got it to a place I kind of like. And I'm going to do the same thing over here, just like I did the center. My group is wrapping their flowers up and they're pretty much done. Oh, look at that. And what I find fascinating is we're all painting the same thing, but everyone comes out with their own personality and interpretation of their flower, which is wonderful. You do not have to make this flower exactly like Georgia O'Keeffe, or we'd all be Georgia O'Keeffe famous artists. So the important thing is having fun, maybe enjoying a sip of wine at the same time. Who knew art could be so fun? There you go. Very nice, Janelle. Good job. I'm going to hone in on this because her center is so nice. Good job. And I hope Georgia O'Keeffe is not too horrified here, but this is the finished demo of her rose. I think it's a Rose of Sharon. Okay, thank you.